Well, speaking of things that may or may not make sense,
Yes.
first review, Frieren,
Frieren. Yes. New.
after after the
Yeah.
journey's end,
Beyond the journey's end.
beyond the journey's end. God, considering I've been reading this manga for 2 years, always sounds like such a geek girl about it,
Yeah.
or fake geek girl about it.
It's yeah, it's okay. Um, but yeah. So well, I watched the first three episodes of this. I think you watched you watched the first two, but you've been reading the manga, so you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Um, but it's on Crunchyroll. If anyone's interested, it's about an elf girl named Freyr.
Lots of German names with the
Yes,
sensibilities of a Japanese speaker.
yes, Frieren, and it starts off basically at the end of her and her party's journey or their quest to kill the evil demon king. They've succeeded, and then they come home to a hero's welcome, and this is basically just everything after that.
Right, they're kind of set up as a very prototypical anime fantasy party
Hmm. Yeah.
because you got the stoic dwarf, the pretty boy lead, the comic
Uh,
relief corrupt priest,
yeah.
and the aloof. I believe they would call it a kudere girl.
Yes. And who is a mage.
Yep.
And but as each episode progresses, or the first episode progresses, they time skip 50 years because Freyren, being an elf, she has a very long lifespan. And this is actually something I really liked about the show was showing like how for her, like, because their quest was 10 years. For her, 10 years, that's not that long a time.
That's like going out with somebody for a weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so she wants to she goes back to the town 50 years later, because there's a meteor shower that they're gonna want to watch. And the first time they see it after they come home, they don't really see it very well because of the lights from the town. She said, "Oh, there's a really nice place I know, great spot we can go watch the meteor shower." And then she meets up with Himmel.
Himmel.
Himmel, yeah, Himmel the hero. 50 years later, and of course he's an old man, and then and she also reunites with the dwarf. I can't remember his name. And then the priest, that she says, "You corrupt priest."
Yeah.
And then they go off to watch the meteor shower, and then Himmel passes away, and they give him a hero's memorial, and then she goes off to do her little hobby, which is just collecting spells.
Yeah, and it's interesting because y- I kind of get the impression just from the couple episodes here that she had never really had any humans that she knew long enough to care about before.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, because it really didn't hit her until they're putting Himmel in the ground that she's like, oh, I didn't know anything about him.
Right? Because again, from her perspective, she knew him for 10 years, then effed off for 50.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so then then it picks up that she's reunites with the cleric, and he's, of course, he's a drunkard. Um, and so he's now an old man, and he's not got much time, but he's taking care of a girl who's a war orphan named Fern, and she's got magical abilities, and he basically tricks her into uh, enter the cleric tricks Frieren into being Fern's master.
Yep. And then the series as a whole is about their adventures together.
Right. Yeah. And the entire time you get to know Frieren, like you were saying, she's very aloof, but she does have some foibles. Like she has a tendency of getting her head stuck in places.
Yeah, like she never met a mimic chest that she didn't feel the need to try and open.
Yeah. Um, and then like she'll make this face when she's hiding something. Like she's like, oh, I'm going to go do something. Like, okay.
Yeah, would it be fair that she comes off as like slightly autistic?
Yes. Yeah.
No, no, giant frogs are more of a Konosuba thing.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Important point to make that since you mentioned Konosuba, this is not an isekai, by the way.
No, it's and honestly, it doesn't even feel like one of those. I can't believe it's not an isekai series. Like, is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon?
Yeah. Or hidden dungeon only I can enter.
Yeah, yeah. So overall, would you recommend it to people?
Yes, I would. Yeah. It kind of has a Violet Evergarden feel to it.
Which is funny that you mentioned that because the composer of the soundtrack is the same guy.
Ah. Okay.
I can't believe you set that up so perfectly without knowing that.
Yeah. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I believe that the that composer, whose name I'm forgetting, is actually I want to say he's an Australian who lives in Japan.
Mm. Oh, okay.
Could be mixing him up with the person who did Shield Hero.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to say it is someone Western though.
Mm.
But yeah, what I'll say about this series is that uh, it does a very nice job with the characterization of our lead heroine.
Mhm.
It's interesting where the manga like alternately feels like it's slice of life. Actually, no, it's like a very well disguised slice of life series
Yeah.
because you're not usually dealing with high stakes and adventure.
Yeah. It's just her going about her life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also got some neat magic system and world building.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, and also the opening theme is done by Yoasobi. So
Okay.
the which for those of you who don't spend a lot of time listening to J-pop, have done a lot of anime themes and just generally wildly successful anime or excuse me J-pop songs over the last few years.
Yeah.
This one was slightly unusual for them, which is funny because they're usually more fast-paced and driving beat, but this one the opening is almost more like slow and off kilter. So it's like it
Yeah.
matches the show, slow and off kilter.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah. Like I said, it's on Crunchyroll. If you want to give it a watch.
Yep.